cat! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is
Morning Somewhere!
for October 16th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns, sitting right over there. She's my $1.5 million IKEA. Ashley Burns. Say hi to Ashley, everybody. It's her stunt double. It's not the actual Ashley, not the one that was used on set.
Look, you'd never know if you didn't know it wasn't a rug.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, look, there's so many things in production. We're talking about the Game of Thrones auction where somebody paid who knows how much for a Night's Watch costume that has now admittedly been revealed to be an IKEA rug. Imagine paying like, whatever they paid, like $600,000 for a cosplay that somebody did. That'd be crazy.
You know what, though, is you look at how productions can come together and set design and things, and people put unexpected things together in completely new ways. And you're right. You would be like, that looks like a pelt to me.
I almost called Marcus Laporte the other day because we would spend so much time talking about LEDs because LED strips were a big deal, but you could never put enough diffusion on them. In other words, you couldn't make it to where you could see the points of lights in the strips. And now I just showed you this LED strip that I bought because I was going to put it in a cabinet for lighting. And it's like a seamless, it looks like something out of like a light cycle, like Tron. It's like a seamless beam of light.
It looks like magic.
It's magic. It's magic. So I almost called them the other day to say, look how far these things have come.
It's movie magic.
But all the stuff that they did on those, all the stuff they did on the sets was just, it's got to look good from one angle for about 2 days, and that's it.
Right. And so if it can pass muster, great. It's similar to people who, there's that filmmaking art where people work with miniatures and they'll take like all kinds of things. Or when people are putting together sci-fi guns and they take like a piece of an old vacuum.
Oh, yeah.
And hose work and it's like painted silver and bam, now it's a gun.
Called kit bashing.
Yeah. And I think that stuff is really cool.
Like that comes from like, they would buy like lots of different model sets, like for battleships or like a Corvette or something. And then they would take all the little pieces of the model set. Do people even make those anymore? I made those as a kid with glue and everything like that. I guess it's all just Legos now.
I don't know. I've seen, there are shops in Edinburgh that are dedicated to almost exclusively to model sets.
The closest thing I can think to it is like people who do the figurines for role-playing games and Warhammer.
Like painting minis and stuff?
Painting minis. Because you had the same little square, like little paint jars that you would do to paint the models. Anyway, they take the different parts, like what was supposed to be like, a big gun on the deck of the battleship that gets added to something on the side of it. And that's how they make things like the Nostromo from Alien and stuff like that. It's really cool, I think.
Yeah, and it's also fun when people spot the different pieces and they're like, hey, this looks like my remote control.
There was something like that just recently, too, where it was some advanced phone and it was just like somebody's remote control for their lights. Although we went to a distillery recently that was a very high-end whiskey distillery. Like this caters to the highest of high-end luxury markets. That's their brand. And a lot of distilleries, when you go in, they're very old school. They look like they're right out of the Victorian era. They've been updated under protest, basically, where they have not wanted to add anything to the whiskey distilleries. This one is like, you walk in, it looks like a Las Vegas casino. It's gigantic. It's massive. It's so funny to me because they have all these displays and LED lights and everything. They have the same shitty LED remote that like comes in like the knockoff Amazon LED product from China.
And you just know if you look at it, written on the back in Sharpie is which lighting fixture it goes to, because in spite of all being exactly the same remote, they don't operate the same lights.
No, but you could get away with one maybe and walk in with one from home. We should try it and see. It's like... It's a really nice motif you've got here. How do you feel about teal and purple? Let's go.
Well, you mentioned Tron. Speaking of Tron,
yeah, it's on my mind because did you see the announcement about the new game?
I did. There's a new trailer out for a new Tron game called Tron Catalyst that's coming out in 2025. I watched the trailer for it, and it's giving me big flashbacks to the heydays of Xbox Live Arcade.
Why Xbox Live Arcade? Tron, the arcade game, was on Xbox Live Arcade?
No. It's very much the style. So it's kind of this isometric action platformer. And it almost seems
it looks
to
cool.
me, the scale gives me those like Xbox Live Arcade flashbacks to like a time that I really loved. I thought that was a great era for games. There were a lot of these much smaller, more bite-sized games that wouldn't otherwise have had a place on Xbox at the time that they were able to get out. Things like Shadow Complex was a big one. That was a big hit.
You know what I call those kinds of games? It's kind of a lost category of games. Is adventure games. And I guess I always associate it with, when I say adventure, it sounds medieval, but I think of it being like the Atari Adventure with the dragons, where you were just doing like this little adventure, but it was a side-scrolling or isometric view, and you just go through the world. I'm with you. I love these kinds of games.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see it. Remains to be seen if or how it's going to be tying into the movie that's coming out, Tron Ares.
Yeah, the games have not always lined up with the movies at all, which is interesting for a franchise like Tron.
No, but there was a Tron game that came out, 2000-ish, I want to say. It was Tron Legacy, and it was a
Tron Legacy was the movie.
Oh, Tron.
I think Tron 2.0. Tron 2.0, which is a great name, by the way.
It is. Yeah. And it had a lot of fun little game modes in it. So there was the light cycles mode, which was always a good time. There was one, I think, where you would use the disc that's on your back to like teleport around a level and try and beat your opponent somehow. I don't remember how. I think you shoot them. Very futuristic. Also,
it's interesting to me that in the age now of AI, we may have mentioned this before, Tron, when it came out in 1982, was not nominated for a Visual Effects Academy Award because they used computers, and computers was considered to be cheating for visual effects. It just goes to show how there's always a resistance to technology. Can you imagine making a movie with no computers today?
At all. No computers whatsoever. I wonder if they can do a retroactive award for that one, because I feel like they kind of deserve it.
Yeah, usually they kind of do that sometimes when it's a long-running franchise. They suddenly give a bunch of awards to the last movie. I feel like that's what happened with Return of the King. Like, the Return of the King Oscars were really the Lord of the Rings Oscars, right?
They do that with TV shows as well sometimes.
Actors
I think
as well.
A lot of times the last season of a show will suddenly gain all these awards because it's like they've been in the running this whole time, but it's like, they'll maybe next year. But this is their last shot, so now they get all the awards.
It's funny to me. It's like when you hear about what someone won an Academy Award for, like famous directors or actors, like Al Pacino, all the parts that Al Pacino has ever played, these incredible roles, and he won an Oscar for Scent of a Woman. It's like, of all the things, that's, sometimes you're like, we got to give this guy an award because he's had such an incredible career.
Yeah, just, okay, fine, roll out Leo. He gets his award now.
Has Leo won an award yet?
I think he has now. I'm looking that up.
It's funny how Oscars are, too. You don't remember, like, at the end of the day, what people won for. I think Scorsese was the same thing. Like, he finally won an Academy Award for, was it Gangs of New York, of all things? I don't know. But they give people awards, like, at the ends of their careers, or they're overdue for an award, essentially.
So he won. He finally won
his
Academy
won for
Award.
The Bear movie.
The Revenant.
The Revenant, yeah.
Yeah, so that's of all the films that he's been in, all the like iconic movies that you think of when you think of Leonardo DiCaprio, he won for The Revenant.
The Revenant, yeah.
Which also a great film, but there's like Wolf of Wall Street, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Aviator, Inception.
The Departed,
and he won for Revenant.
Titanic. What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Tremendous early Leonardo DiCaprio performance.
Absolutely.
You seen it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I mean, not since it came out, but I remember even at the time it was pretty mental.
Yeah. Really amazing.
But speaking of fantastic actors, awards, and sequels to movies, Bernie, Ryan Gosling has reportedly, and I'm gonna put this in big asterisks because I've only seen this so far on more tabloidy websites, but reportedly, Bernie.
I have a reportedly thing too.
Okay.
As well, from good. This is our vibe today.
Let's just have a little gossip, shall we? Is Ryan Gosling is reportedly asking $50 million to return for a Barbie sequel. So he's basically taking the RDJ playbook and going, yeah, let's do this, but it's going to be a payday. I guess he and Margot Robbie each made $12.5 million to do the original Barbie, but then she also had a bigger stake in the profits. She was executive producing and sort of the showrunner sort of for that movie. Like she was one of the driving forces behind it.
Executive producer.
I think so.
Like her production company, something. She's got one of these vanity production companies. And they were behind Barbie.
Right. So she ended up with a lot more than the $12.5 million. And I guess he is aware of how important Ken was to the success of the first film and wants $50 million for a sequel.
Well, we were just talking about Oscar nominations. Remember that nobody was nominated for an Oscar for Barbie except for the song that Ken sang.
Well, they not for acting, but I believe, it was not for.
No, because remember he did
director.
the musical number during the Academy Awards,
and that was pretty funny.
Yeah. So reading from Wikipedia here, Margot Robbie's production company is Lucky Chat Productions. She founded it in 2014. It's based in both the UK and in Los Angeles.
Right. And
how do you feel about that, though? $50 million to Ryan Gosling for a sequel to that movie.
Given how much that movie made, and how much of the hype after the movie came out, how much of the hype was specifically about Ken, and his character, I don't think he's necessarily off the mark.
Does it need a sequel?
No.
Aside from the fact that it made so much money, does it need a sequel?
It does not need a sequel, but look at all of the movies that they're now trying to make off board games. Get ready for Battleship 2. It's going to happen this time.
I'm thinking about that there is a canary in the mine shaft that is wearing clown makeup and singing with Lady Gaga right now. You talk about a big hit from a few years ago that made over $1 billion, right? Won Joaquin Phoenix an Academy Award. And should they have made a follow-up to Joker, I think a lot of people would say, no, we didn't need that. The weird thing about that is it has now made people retroactively dislike the first Joker movie.
Really?
Yeah.
It's gone on to ruin the experience, or
anecdotally, I'll say I've read a lot more criticism about the first movie than I ever have before.
Interesting. Okay.
But as far as if they're going to make a movie or they're considering it and Ryan Gosling wants $50 million, I feel like J.K. Simmons at the end of Burn After Reading, where he's like, fuck it, just pay it. just pay the money, whatever.
Just close your eyes and pay it.
They made so much money from it.
I guess we learned not to do it again.
Yes, sir.
Well, considering that the gross revenue for Barbie was like $1.5 billion, I think they can afford to get Ryan Gosling back.
They can get Ryan Gosling back for $50 million. I also heard a rumor, because I read the same story, this is all gossip and conjecture and reported by a source, etc., that the reason why he asked for $50 million is he knew they wouldn't ever pay him for it, right? And so he doesn't want to make the second movie, and so that's why he did it. That's it's like speculation on top of speculation.
But then also it's like, if they do, okay.
There could be, you never know, with a big studio movie, because that was a Warner Brothers movie, and they advertised the hell out of that. I think it was the biggest movie for Warner that year. There could be a stipulation where there's like some kind of clause where he has to consider in good faith to come back and do it. Part of that is like, okay, yeah, sure, you bet. This sounds great. Let's do it.
I'd love to do
million.
it. I'm on board. Love the idea. $50 million. I'm in. Let's go.
Why not?
There's speculation that something similar happened with the Joker sequel, and that the director didn't necessarily want to come back for a sequel, but potentially had to, and so decided to go in a completely different direction.
I remember you said
that before. But again, that's all very thin speculation.
I from what I read, there was nothing that tied him to having to come back, and they decided to come back and make this movie. But enough.
No,
about
that's
Joker.
like message boards conjecture.
Totally message board conjecture. On that note, there's been a lot of gossip sites that have reported that Britney Spears has a biopic that is now being suspended, that it's in jeopardy because she's running through her $60 million fortune that she had post her conservatorship ending.
But how does that work? Is she funding the biopic?
Isn't she also going through a divorce thing too?
I think she has gone through the divorce, but last time I heard, it had been a little while since I got any updates. Last I heard, her now ex-husband, or at the time current husband, future ex-husband, was suing her.
Oh, really? For what? Money?
Money.
Just you married me, so shame on you. So Sam Asghari, if I'm saying that correctly, American model, actor, and fitness trainer. And he is he's apparently suing her now for money.
That's what I heard, but it might also have been her other ex-husband, Kevin Federline.
Well, Kevin Federline, so I have this article here from when her conservatorship was put in place, and they had some of her spending habits as part of it that were filed in court. And apparently at that time, she was paying her ex-husband $20,000 a month in child support.
Wow.
Yeah, which makes sense if the kids are going back and forth between those two environments. One is going to be a vastly different experience than the other. So child support is usually to try to even that out for the kids.
Sure. And that will put a drain on anyone's finances, because what does that end up to? That ends up to $240,000 a year.
$250,000 a year.
Although, if you're saying it's $60 million, that's only going to put so much of a dent in $60 million. I imagine she must have had to make the rest of that dent.
It is interesting, though, because a lot of the gossip subreddits and sites tend to have a more female audience. Is that a fair thing to say?
I think that's pretty fair.
And seeing people's reaction to Britney Spears having to pay $20,000 a month for child support, they like, it seemed criminal to them. It's just like, interesting, huh? Yeah, a woman who's making a lot of money suddenly. It's like, that's the way that works, man. It's not the gender at all. It's the amount of money and who has it and who doesn't.
This is how we follow sports icons without having to involve sports. We have celebrity fight.
And I was looking, there was a lot of amateur financial advisors in a lot of these comments telling her what she could have done with the $60 million, et cetera, et cetera. I was looking through some of the expenses and the stuff they were reporting that was crazy. Like she spent $3,500 on Christmas lights. That doesn't seem like crazy to me. That doesn't sound like, somebody making it rain, She probably has a big mansion somewhere, in California, and to pay someone to come out and put lights all over the mansion, $3,500 doesn't seem like something that would be crazy enough to report in a court filing and then report about it in the gossip.
No, the real expense, Bernie, is getting someone to come back after Christmas and take those lights down.
Oh, they're gone. They're out of business.
Yeah, they're gone.
That's it. Everybody knows that's a scam, right? You guys know that.
When you see, if you're driving around and you see like a cardboard sign taped to a stop sign that says, we put up Christmas lights, they will not come back and take them down. Do not count on it. They will tell you that they will. They will not do that.
They go out of business on December 24th. That's the day they go out of business. Citing legal documents they'd obtained, TMZ reported in 2013 that Spears spent $6.8 million of the nearly $14 million the conservatorship had earned in 2012. Specific amounts detailed by TMZ, citing the court docs, included $34,000 on grooming and wardrobe, a $500 manicure, and $3,400 on Christmas lights. Of all the things to call out, they call out the $3,400 on Christmas lights.
That does seem like a weird thing to specifically pinpoint, but maybe the Grinch wrote that article.
They're just anti-Christmas. They're trying to make it relatable, right? Like, what's something you would do? You would buy Christmas lights. You spend $50 at Home Depot for Christmas lights.
I just want to know what a $500 manicure gets you.
Is that a lot for a manicure? Is that a lot?
Oh, yeah. But I'm assuming that's involving lasers and little fish eating your calluses off. And
they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, because they started spreading bacteria.
Gross.
Yeah, a little bit gross. But they, all kinds of like fun bells and whistles. Once in my life, I would love to experience a $500 manicure. Well, I will have the hands of a toddler.
Just tell me here. I don't want to, be completely ignorant, but what does a manicure cost? Can I guess?
Yeah, go ahead and guess.
A manicure is $50?
Yeah, and in that ballpark. Especially they go up if you get one of the princess chairs where they like soak your feet before the pedicure and you get the feet bubbles and the nice like bath salts and stuff in there. It's nice.
What's the deal with the pedicure? Do you want your feet to actually look nice, or is it just the experience and the relaxation, like a reflexology massage kind of a thing?
Little of both. Okay.
I
also think pedicures are important because your feet do a lot of work. We don't thank our feet very often, so I think it's important to treat them every now and again and say, hey, feet, good job.
I can show you some websites where that's not true. I need a drop now from Liar. Some people make a very good living that way. We were talking earlier, before we go, I want to mention this. We were talking earlier about Tron and how it would be hard to imagine making a movie without a computer today. And it's weird how you come to depend on things. It got me thinking about this quote that I think about all the time. It's like a throwaway line in the Stephen King novel, The Stand. Do you ever have, like, when you're reading a book and there's a line that for whatever reason just sticks with you?
Yes.
Even though it's not meant to be like something really profound or anything like that, it just sticks with me. And this was the female character that's played by Molly Ringwald. The name of the character is escaping me at the moment. She was talking about being in her house after the virus takes over and everybody dies, spoiler, and the power in her town goes out, and she decides to move on from her town at that point. And she says, or thinks to herself, it's crazy how much of your life comes out of two little holes in the wall until it stops coming out. And I'm paraphrasing there. But that always stuck with me. It's like you don't realize how important this utility like electricity is until you don't have it anymore. And now it would be one hole. It'd be the internet. It is wild when the internet goes out, how much of your life just kind of stops and how much of our lives we have put on this thing that didn't even exist when we were born, Ashley.
Right.
It's
so
crazy.
you can't even you can't bust out the VHS and watch or DVD and watch movies because guess what? They're all streaming.
Yeah, because you have your digital library that needs to check its authentication online before it'll allow you to watch it. I have that every time now I get on a plane. I download all my stuff. It's crazy. Same thing with, this is a feature that everyone should use if they can. If you use Google Maps because you're a sane person, if you use Apple Maps, first of all, what happened to you? What's going on?
Who
in your
hurt
life?
you?
Do you need to talk about it? Google Maps has this really cool feature where you can get offline maps. And I would just recommend to everybody, just do that for your area. Just go into your,
just in case.
You click on your little profile icon if you're signed into Google Maps, and you can go to offline maps and you can set an area and it just downloads all the map data and puts it on your phone. That would be invaluable in a situation like people are dealing with in the hurricanes and things like that. You just kind of need to know where you're going. And what's even weirder is if you don't have that data, you can still get your GPS signal and see your blue dot in the middle of the grid with no data on it. So it goes, you're here, but we can't show you where that is.
You're here in this gray square.
Yes. And so it's really valuable information to have in a crisis. So just go do it. The weird thing about it is you have to renew it like once a year, and I don't know why.
I don't know why. I guess maybe it's because it checks for changes to, roads. Maybe there's new roads, maybe there's closures, whatever it is. And so it wants to make sure that the roads are the most up-to-date that they can be. That's my guess.
Okay, and before we go, I do want to give a shout out to today's Morning Somewhere shout. Rob Tyree absolutely crushed it with the Morning Somewhere shout.
I could hear the veins exploding.
You can feel the nodules forming on his vocal cords. He's giving. He is sacrificing his body for that intro. So if you're going to do a Morning Somewhere shout, that's
what to emulate. There
Here
you
we
go.
go. Here we go.
I'd also like to thank Michael Edmonds and Jamie Money. Thank you both for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/Morning Somewhere.
All right. Well, that does it for us today, October 16th, 2024. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you will be here as well.
Bye, everybody.